Hello, my family. So we are working on Italian pizza crust. Pure authentic, actually. I have some information we're going to be adding, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So, let's get started. Alright, y'all, so this is going to be a part 1 and 2, and the reason for it is, okay, a bit of information about authentic pizza crust. Now here in the United States, we know our pizza crust to be this nice, pillowy, thick, and then this thicker crust on the end, and then we've got this not so thin crust through the whole thing, and we just have a nice bread style pizza crust. However, in Italy, the authentic part of the pizza crust actually is the edges look like a sourdough bread. They are crunchy and they are soft. The inside of the ring, where we have all our toppings and everything, that generally is a thin crust and not very crunchy, but it's chewy. And so this is not what we have here. We would relate this into what kind of pizza crust is this? But it's amazing. I have had it. And then the pizzas are totally different there than they are here. Here we have toppings of all different kinds, which they can do the same thing in Italy. The one I am going to work on though for us, or one that I want, is called not a margarita, but a margherita pizza. And what it is, basically, it's just a simple sauce, simple tomato sauce, some real mozzarella cheese, and fresh basil. That is it. And then you have that crusty bread type outside texture, like a sourdough, crunchy, soft, and then a thin crust. And this is baked on a pizza stone in your oven for about 500 degrees, dropped down to 450. Now, I will tell you, this is a 2-part video. And the reason it's a 2-part video, because what I am actually going to do, and it could turn into a 3-part actually. So what I'm wanting to do is teach you how to make this crust dough, how to freeze it in bulk style for your family. So whenever you want a pizza right now, all you have to do is go in your freezer, pull out what dough you need, let it defrost in the bottom of your fridge overnight, and you have your crust. So simple to actually put together. You would be just taking and turning it and just sizing it, which I will do a pizza for you one day to show you how to use this crust. A bit of information though. So most of our pizzas, hang on y'all, sorry about that. I made some chai pumpkin spice tea, and this stuff was, oh my gosh, so good. So, and I also noticed that the camera was moving around a lot, and that's frankly because Smokey, my photo bomber, was actually loving on y'all over here on the tripod and shaking the thing, so I had to make her stop. So anyways, all right, so our pizzas here in the United States, when we make a pizza, here are the ingredients most generally used. Hang on. Sorry about this, y'all. Let me shut this down. Okay, so most generally used, it's all-purpose flour, and it's salt and water and yeast. Okay, so, but if you wanted a really good style pizza, you would want something with more protein in a way. So most people would use bread flour. However, bread flour, and here's the trick I'm going to tell you, bread flour will make it too bread-like. And if you want a nice sort of chew on your pizza, don't use bread flour in this case. You're actually going to use all-purpose flour. I'm going to get to this because I'm getting to it now. Now, what I'm going to be using is fresh milled. Now, for those of you who fresh mill with me, when you hear yeast, what are the two first wheat berries you're going to go to? That's right, your red and your white hard wheat berries. This is wrong. In this case, this is wrong. And this is where a lot of people don't know this. So I'm going to educate you on it, because if you ever wanted a real crust, if you ever wanted as close to Italy as you possibly can, this is how you're going to do it. Now, the information I have on the flour. Most flour used in Italy for this case would be a 00 flour, otherwise known as 00 pizza flour. Now, you can order this online if you would like to do that instead of trying to use any of our flours, because what you're going to get is the same thing I'm fixing to do in my milling. And I'm going to get to the ingredients to what that really is. It's not what I even thought of it. So 00 flour in Italy are one of the two ingredients. Now again, we are using yeast in this recipe, but you will not be using a hard wheat, y'all. So these are the ingredients you can use. Number one would be durum wheat or soft white wheat. Yes, I said soft white wheat. I know that soft white wheat is basically used for your pastries and stuff like that. Generally not used with a yeast. We do not want that gluten. Not this time. We want more of that chew. So this is what you're going to need. And you're going to have to make that awful fine. So you're going to have to sift it, or not sift it, but make it really, really fine. Now, if you have a mill that you can sift it and then remill the brand, by all means do so. It's what I do. Now, I will use my NutriMill Harvest, and I can actually remill the germ and the brand through it safely. So, originally, 00 flour or 00 pizza flour is soft white wheat, not hard wheat, and milled like baby powder, so it's really fine. Now, 00 flour's insight. Okay, so the wheat producers typically make 00 flour from soft wheat or durum wheat. Now, I have both. This time I'm going to try it with soft wheat milled, but I have an opportunity to try it on durum wheat as well. Although, yes, durum wheat is made from pasta or for pasta. So here's another aspect. If you can use durum wheat and you don't have it, Kamut is the next sister grain into the factor of a pasta. So if you do not have durum wheat, you more than likely will be able to use Kamut for this as well. All-purpose flour is from a combination of hard wheat and soft wheat. 00 flour is the grind of the flour, which means it's really, really fine. Technically, it's the finest grind protein content, or it's the finest grind. So on the protein content of it, bread flour comes closest to the protein. Content of 00 flour, and delivers a dense, stretchy chew, but lacks the light, crispy tenderness of a 00 flour dough. It will give you the consistency more like a bread. It will not give you that crunch, and it will not give you it's hard to describe, you all. The chew, that texture of a crunch and a soft at the same time. You won't get that. You will just get a bread texture. But again, all-purpose flour is your next type of flour, but it won't give you the exact same thing either. 00 flour is high in protein, but it is low in gluten. So therefore, this is the reason why, although we are going to use yeast, you want to use a low gluten-based wheat berry, which would be your soft wheat berry, your Kamut, or your durum wheat. So this is the type. Y'all, if you would had to known where I went digging to get this information, to get as close to authentic here in the United States as we absolutely can. So now I also have durum wheat, so I can turn around and grind to make semolina to use also at the bottom of my pizza crust, the same thing they do in Italy. If you do not have that, not all is lost. You can use cornmeal. So it's not going to have the same taste. You want to use a little bit of that, but not a whole lot, but you can use cornmeal in its place. Okay, so the difference in this pizza for Italy versus the American, I gave you the texture and the dough study. Now comes the next study, and this is what we are going to do this evening. This is a two-part video because it takes overnight to make your first process of this dough. In a sense of it, this dough needs what's called a poolish. A poolish is almost is a fermented mass that goes in your refrigerator for 24 hours. It's necessary. It kind of turns it into the sourdough bread. Hence the reason why you would have in your crust that crunchiness due to the high heat, but the hollowness and the holes due to the poolish. So this is what we are going to do today. We are going to make the poolish. Tomorrow we are going to make the dough, and then we will proof it in our box. But I'm going to get you through the poolish tonight, and I am going to give you a much less version instead of a greater. I have a recipe for both 6 pizzas and about 10 pizzas. So this is a way to bulk style your pizza crust for your family in your freezer. And if you don't feel like making the dough, well, we're going to have that already taken care of. We're going to be able to freeze them individually, stick them in your freezer, and like I said, whenever you want to use it, pull it out, put it at the bottom of your fridge overnight. It'll be defrosted. Take it out about an hour before you're going to make dinner, and that's it. Make your pizza. So there's no other work you have to do. Unlike all the other pizza crusts that we've ever known, you got about 2 to 3 hours altogether with the rise and deflate, the rise and the... You don't have to do that in this one. We're going to do it all now. We're going to bulk style this, and you're going to have crust or pizza dough in your freezer. This works amazing for that. So let's go into the kitchen and let's make our first batch of poolish, and then we will come back to finish off the rest of this conversation. All right, y'all. So this is how we're going to make our poolish. Now, I am going to give you this recipe as I go along, and then I'm going to put it in the description below. Now, I will tell you, y'all, this weight is coming from Italy, so they're using grams, so you will have to use a scale. Now, if you do not fresh mill, I would say that you can still use the same weight. If you are using all-purpose flour, please let it flow into your bowl. Don't just take big old scoops and dump. Let it flow in there because it can vary in weight. And if you're using 00 flour, well, then you're in the better stance than me because you've already got the pure authentic. Now, if you do order it online on Amazon, make sure it says Caputo, C-A-P-U-T-O. That would be your authentic 00 flour. So this is for fresh milled I am using, and I am using soft white wheat. that I have milled. And so this is what we need for our poolish. We can't go any further until this process gets done. This is the most important part of our pizza. It's fermenting our dough. So I am going to need 300 cups of water. I need 5 grams of yeast and 5 grams of honey. Now this honey is to feed the yeast that just went in here. So I'm just going to mix that in there because we want all of this. Come on, get off of there. I'm gonna have to come in here and get the rest of this honey out of here too. Like I said, this honey isn't adding any sweetness at all to the crust. It's just feeding this beautiful yeast. So I'm going to make sure I get all this honey off of here. And then we are going to start adding our flour. Now we're going to use the same ratio as water to flour. And that would be 300 grams of soft wheat. Soft white wheat. Or if you're using durum wheat or Kamut, that as well. I have not tried those yet, y'all. So now I'm just going to go in here for the first part of this and do about half to mix into my water. Now this is going to be awful messy, y'all. We want that. We are just making a liquid based poolish. All right. Now I can go ahead and finish the rest. You're going to deal, and I will tell you, the whole process will be a sticky dough, but it's going to be kind of interesting, fun when we do this. And that's exactly what this is supposed to look like. Now, I will say for me, that liquid is going to have to still absorb into my flour, so I'm going to have to give it time. Now, I'm going to set this. We do not want to put this in the refrigerator just yet. We're going to finish mixing this. Now that's the end of that. I'm going to take all of this beautiful ingredients off of my whisk. And we're going to let this sit for an hour. In the warm or room temperature, you're going to let this sit. Come on, get off of there. All right, now I'm going to scrape down the bowl. Cover it up, and we're going to let this sit for an hour. After an hour, we will be back, and I'll show you what our next step is. So let me get something to cover this. And y'all, this is pretty interesting too. It's really inexpensive. You can get a pretty good amount of shower caps over in the beauty section of Walmart. It's kind of cool. Or yeah, where you buy your shampoos and stuff. Just look for these clear shower caps, and they make great bowl covers. I've been using that ever since, and they didn't really cost much until I'm able to make my cloth based ones. That's the only ones I've had, so they work. Now I'm just going to cover this. Now we're going to let this sit for 1 hour, y'all, and we will be back. Okay, y'all, so our poolish has been sitting for an hour. This looks really good, y'all. So now we just want to take and put it, make sure it's sealed, airtight container. And now this goes in the refrigerator overnight, y'all. That's it. That's all we do for this poolish, and we won't see this thing till tomorrow when we start making up our pizza doughs. And at that point, that'll be part 2. So we'll be back just a minute. Okay, y'all, it's just that simple. This is really not a very hard process to do this. It's more time consuming, but in the end of this, you're going to get something that you don't get here at all. And I have had the opportunity to make a somewhat version of it, and it just wasn't right, but I got a slight taste. So I'm willing to do what it takes to try to get that authentic as much as possible. And it came down to the wheat, the right wheat to do this. And against all odds, we are taught when it comes to bread making, even doughs, and a lot of the pizza doughs that are being taught for fresh milled are also using hard white wheats in it. Usually they'll use a hard white with a Kamut or something like that. But it's technically, y'all, this is not to rise like a bread dough. So we use soft white wheat, durum wheat, or Kamut. So I'm hoping this is helping you. I cannot wait to see how this process turns out. So until next time, much, much love from Parton's Heritage Homestead.